Hello, my name is Matt Kedlick, and for my course project, I chose the topic of pastoral care and depth as it relates to depression. Obviously, we all have our own journey, our own story. For me, my journey began with depression around the age of 16. So throughout my elementary years, I always had friends and was active in school and Cub Scouts, and by all means, if you wanted to call me a popular kid, I probably was in elementary school. But then when I transitioned into middle school, I began to experience bullying, and that transferred over into high school, but at really a whole new level, where now the bullying turned into in between classes. I was literally trying to find the quickest way to the next class to avoid getting beat up, simply because apparently being 4'11" and 86 pounds as a freshman in high school makes you an easy candidate. Also, probably didn't help that I really wanted to follow Christ, wanted to know what that meant, and so I carried a Bible with me and had it in my locker, and probably at my parents' request, I dressed nice to school, tucked in my shirt, and all those things, which, yeah, kind of a prime candidate for bullying. Um, but yeah, the so that's like my story with depression, and it's not over. That journey has continued into my adult years. Most recently in 2017, I served as a senior pastor and experienced just some things during that time. An elder son died of alcohol poisoning. I had a niece who passed away, and at the end of 2018, I had a mentor and pastor, a friend of 8 years, just extremely close friend, pass away from suicide as a result of his own battle with depression. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, what good can possibly come out of this? I really struggled with that idea that God causes all things to work together for good. And one of the things that came out of this, at least I felt God was saying to me, was that there wouldn't be silence around this issue of depression anymore, or this topic of suicide. And two, that while we're talking about this, that there would be authenticity in relationships. Authenticity so much that we would be able to be fully known and fully loved with someone else, and to be able to share those deepest, darkest things without fear of being shamed, judged, or left behind. And so that really is the purpose of, I guess, my excitement in just researching this topic further, and exploring how do we as a church, how do we as pastoral leaders, how do we respond to this issue of depression and the idea of suicidal thoughts, in a way that's healthy for a congregation. And it got me to thinking is one of the top things I think is just creating that culture of authentic relationships. I think sometimes you walk into a church and you can easily go out and in and out without any type of relationships, and they're very shallow, they're not very deep, and we're not necessarily committing to do life together other than one Sunday out of the week. And so I felt challenged in that man, this is 7 days a week. We're in an all-out war, spiritual warfare, where the enemy is trying to steal, kill, and destroy. And so that one Sunday a month shouldn't be the only time. We have people in our lives who have high invitation, and also have the ability to give us high challenge, and full of grace and full of truth, full of love. And so a few of the different resources that I found, there were several different books. The first one was "I'm Not Supposed to Feel Like This," and I think that's I love the title because I think that's how I felt as a pastor struggling with depression. And even after losing my friend to suicide, struggling with some pretty dark days where that thought wasn't too far off for me. And I remember thinking, man, I'm a pastor. I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to have it all together. I'm supposed to be strong for the people I'm leading. And I think there's that truth for that, right? Because we want to be able to have something worthy of following. But there's also the reality that in our pastoral ministry, in your positions of ministry, there is going to be depression. There's going to be extremely um, hard things that you'll walk through, um, and painful, hurtful things, and there's going to be relationships. People who you love deeply are going to be some of the ones who will hurt you most, and I think just recognizing all of those things and really realizing that need to have people in our lives who we too, as ministry leaders, can go to, be fully known, be fully loved by, without fear of judgment, without fear of shame, and to share those thoughts, those feelings of depression, and just to be able to be truthful, to be authentic with them. There was many other resources that I looked to. One of my favorite was called the Life Saving Church, Faith Communities and Suicide Prevention. I think there's a desire for all of our churches to be life-saving churches. And I think one of the things we need to understand is that depression and suicidal thoughts aren't always something that we can identify. The old adage or comment has always been search for these signs, but sometimes those signs aren't that obvious, and the signs that we're looking for, we're actually missing the signs that the person is giving us. And so I think just to be open to really, again, cultivating that culture in our churches where we can have those types of conversations where nobody's afraid to go to another person and say, hey, I'm not doing okay. And then where our response can be, hey, it's okay to not be okay. And I'm just going to sit here with you right now, and I'm just going to be here however you need me. And I want to commit to you that we're going to do life together. And I'm not going to walk away from you or leave you. There's another article that I found really helpful, and I just want to share that with you. 5 things Christians should know about depression and anxiety. I think this is another kind of misconception, is that it's a choice for one person to have depression. Like, I can choose to put my shoes on in the morning, or I can choose to put my shirt and other things, and thank goodness I do. But it's not a choice to say, man, I'm going to have depression today. I think I'd like that. Nobody welcomes that and says, man, I'd love to have it today. I look forward to that battle today. The second point Brandon Peach makes in this article, 5 things Christians should know about depression and anxiety, says mental illness is not a sin. When we view depression as a sin in and of itself, it prevents individuals from seeking treatment. It shames them. It makes them feel guilty. It makes them feel, man, I'm a Christian. I should not be feeling this way. And sometimes they avoid Christ followers. They avoid the church because of it. It sometimes causes so much confusion they walk away from it all. And then, so strong churches don't fix depression. This was the biggest point made in this article. Even churches that provide a safe haven for those suffering in their midst might not have a judgment-free place to discuss their struggles. I think that's one of the biggest keys here. is that judgment-free place to discuss their struggles. That's what people need. Um, they need to know it's okay to not be okay, and that we're going to refuse to leave them in all of the messiness, that we're going to commit to doing life together, and we're going to walk with them through whatever storms are ahead. And Brandon, in this article, he closes it by giving this challenge to the readers. He says, Christ, the great physician, came to heal the sick. As his body, it's time the church leads society in helping to do the same. And so that was one of the points when I was asking what good can possibly come out of my friend, my fellow pastor, my mentor. What good can come out of that situation, that suicide that took place? And I think it's right here. We need to stop being silent on this issue. We need to stop avoiding it, thinking it's too deep. We need to be, I think the church ought to be known as one of the most vocal places on the topic of suicide and depression, and I think we need to be vocal in a healthy way, not in a condemning or judging way, but in a healthy way. Again, that we're going to walk through this together as a community. And so I think as we do this, we need to continue to look towards Scripture and to see how Jesus ministered to those who were suffering. Many times it was just the ministry of presence. It was just sitting with those who were weeping, and he wept with them. And he didn't always use words. A lot of times it was that ministry of presence just being so valuable. I think there's something to be said about that. Just sitting with someone in their depression and just being there for them, being an ear to listen, hearing them, hearing their pain, being slow to speak in that situation. And I think Jesus models for us for that. So my challenge, I guess, that I'm feeling as I walk away from this paper is that I would just continue to look towards Scripture to see how Jesus lived and how Jesus conducted his ministry with those who were hurting, with those who were in pain, with those who were grieving. I want to see how he responded so that I can continue to grow in his image, becoming more like him, and in effect, do the things that he did and love other people in the way that he did. And I think that's the response that we need to depression, to the suicidal thoughts that are taking place. So, thank you.